Hello and welcome to week 32. This is all about how to complete Unit 11 on your personal development. So let's start by having a look at the questions. The questions for this week are PD 2.2, demonstrate the ability to reflect on practice. PD 3.1, evaluate your own knowledge, performance and understanding against internal or external benchmarks. PD 3.2, demonstrate the use of feedback to evaluate your own performance and inform development. 5.1, evaluate how learning opportunities identified in your personal development plan have improved performance. And PD 5.2, explain how reflection on your own practice has led to improved ways of working. So lots of evaluating and reflecting. So as usual, there's a worksheet to help you with this week and some other activities that we'll have a look at. So let's start by having a look at this personal development review. If you can contact your teacher, you could ask them for a performance review, just to have a chat with them. You could do it over the phone for 5 minutes and ask them to give you some critical comments based on the first 8 questions. You could email the 8 questions to them and ask them to fill them in. If they can't do that, or you can't contact your teacher, you fill in the 8 questions yourself. Even if the teacher's going to do some of those questions, I want you to do all of them yourself as well. So you might end up with 2 sets, one from the teacher and one that you've done yourself. So let's have a look at the 8 questions. If you click here, you're looking for the little reflections picture. So here's the document in 2 parts, 8 questions for your personal review and then some reflections. Let's have a look. So going to the top, if you can, in school, do a personal development review. It's a process where you consider your performance in your job, you look at the successes and any areas for improvement you may have. And then you discuss, you make notes, and then you get feedback from your mentor. Let's have a look at the questions. You need to write just a couple of sentences in each box to talk about your successes, and you can put in any areas for improvement you feel you might have. How well do you work and communicate with the pupils? What's your relationship with the other staff, adults, parents, office staff that you come into contact with? Outside agencies you could mention. How about your knowledge of legislation and the school policies? How are you involved in these as a TA? How about your experiences of behaviour management? How well do you do that? What are your strengths? Are there any areas for improvement? Is there a training course you would like to take part in? How about your knowledge of working with children with SEND? That's really important. You should have all completed your SEND child study. That could be the thing that gets you a job. What about your knowledge of the national curriculum, or if you were with the little ones in the EYFS, but especially to here talking about literacy and numeracy. This is where your assessment for learning comes in. Do you know the literacy and numeracy levels in detail? Do you know what each child's next step is? How about ICT? How is that used in school? And here, what about extra contributions? If the school asked you to run a club or do some fundraising, what would you choose to do? Okay, so once you've filled in those 8 questions, if you can send them to a teacher and discuss them, if you discuss them in a phone call, you could write down in some of the boxes what comments the teacher has given you. And really, we want critical, constructive feedback here. It's not so much help, especially for PD 3.2 about feedback. If the teacher just says how lovely you are, that's not going to help. You want them to give you areas for improvement. Okay, let's carry on this worksheet and see what else it involves. Okay, so I just mentioned PD 3.2. You need to demonstrate use of feedback. What feedback have you received in the year and how have you acted on it? I'm suggesting you look at your assessor feedback sheet from the visit that you had. How about teacher comments? You had to take a survey to your teacher quite near the beginning of the year. Or have you had advice from anyone else in school? How about a knowledgeable TA? What feedback or help have they given you? And how has it improved your performance? You could set it out like this. I've put this picture here as an example. One of my students copied and pasted different bits of feedback and underneath said how they'd acted on each one. Your next one is to think about all the different activities you've done in Unit 11. Which one, can you pick out any of them, 1 or 2 or 3, that have really led to improved ways of working? You could mention looking at the job description in week 3. Did that help you? Setting targets on ProPortal, maybe some feedback from a teacher, or writing your own personal statement. How has it improved you? And finally, these are all quite repetitive. If you think you've answered one of these in one of the ones above, that's fine. Just put the 2 questions together and answer them together. Because this is asking you, of the targets you set this year, what has been most helpful? What are you most proud of achieving? What training maybe have you received? Was it successful? Or what are your future training needs? Is there a course you would like to do? And finally, for 5.3, you need to make sure all your SMART targets are up to date on ProPortal. If you wanted to, you could print out your targets from ProPortal and attach them here, or you can just write See ProPortal in this box once you've made sure they're all up to date. Let's go back to Moodle now and see what else there is to help you. So I've put some ideas here for how to get feedback for PD 3.2 and a bigger version of that student's good way of presenting it with her copy and paste from important documents. She went to her assessor visit report from Charlotte, copied and pasted that bit, and then said how it had helped her. The job application. So this is the bit that lots of people find difficult, and that's one reason why I've put it in here. If you're going to apply for a job, maybe in September, you really need to write that personal statement. And it also will help you to cover PD 3.1. I've put in here a sample personal statement from a student from a couple of years ago, and the reason why I really like it is because she was very specific. She didn't just say, I really like working with children. She said which age groups she had worked with, had she done literacy interventions, had she had a maths group each week. She said what she'd learnt from her child's study, what SEND particular needs she was aware of and strategies she used to work with those children. So being as specific as you can. And maybe you could put in there, if you work for the school, what club would you like to run? You could go and have a look at the school's Ofsted report and see where have they got areas for improvement. Can you match yourself to their Ofsted report? If you're interested, here there are some interview questions from Hayes Agency and a sample job specification. So you could have a look at those and see if you were going for an interview, can you prepare yourself by answering the questions in advance? These questions all came from Hayes Agency, who are very experienced at sending students for interviews. And finally, you need to make sure you've updated all your targets on ProPortal. So if you click here, that'll take you to week 3 where we first started setting targets. Let's have a look. Oh, yep, good, that worked. So here we are, the 3 target setting criteria about developing a personal development plan, setting targets, and saying who can help you with each one, who has supported you to meet each target. So please, can you go on ProPortal? I would like you to make sure you've got 6 targets, please. They came from this literacy, numeracy and ICT skills tick sheet. I think in week 3 we looked at that. Yep, maybe later in the year. In week 8 we looked at the planning, delivering and evaluating tick sheet. Here's your job description. So it would be good if you went back and looked at that job description sheet. Can you fill in any more of them now? I think we filled this in just about at week 20. And then finally, I've put here some ideas to help you with how you would update all your targets. So make sure you've got 6. If you haven't, add some more now. You'll have to kind of think back. If I was going to add them in March or April, what would I have set for myself? Then for each target, click in the Edit button, and then in the Actions box, you need to say, have you met the target? If you have, put in some details of how, and don't forget to mention who helped you, who has supported you, because that gets you PD 4.1. If you haven't started the target, or you've started it but not finished it, what's your next step? What are your next steps? Or maybe you're leaving this target for now. If you can't complete that target for some reason, explain why. Oh, and look, I've said it again here. Who has supported you for each target? Try and fill in as many different people as possible. Okay, let's just go back to completing Unit 11 and see if we've covered everything. Personal development, review the reflection and the 8 questions sheet, getting feedback from different people, writing your personal statement, updating all your targets on ProPortal. Excellent. Okay, so over the next few weeks, you need to work through these different activities. Each time you finish one of the worksheets or the personal statement, when you've updated all your targets on ProPortal, send me an email and let me know, and I will go and check them. Okay, thank you.